I was a child, I ruled the earth, I owned it all, its total worth. Each fish, each field, each flower, each butterfly. Time went on, I came to see if I own the earth, then the earth owns me. And each of us must live, or both of us will die. Each of us must live, or both will die. And I am going away. I heard her say, oh yes, I'm going away. I heard her say, I'm going away. Won't someone say goodbye?
This is a memorial to the wild creatures of the earth. It will be beautiful and true, brutal and bloody. Come with us. Say goodbye.
Say Goodbye is a pictorial essay with a strong point of view. All of the scenes, whether actual or created, are based on authenticated facts. Say Goodbye is about nature and man, life and death. At times it is beautiful, at times violent, because nature and life are so. And what you see may move you deeply and cause you to seriously question man's relationship with the wild animals of the earth.
Peace and apparent tranquility. Each day begins. Yet life in the wild is a perilous and sudden existence, for hidden here is nature's time-honored law. Every living creature is either prey or predator. The odds favor the deer. 9 times out of 10, the cougar fails. To live, a young mountain lion must develop raw instinct into skill. Survival begins as a game. From its mother, it learns the use of fang and claw. The final lesson, however, must be learned alone. In its first encounter, the young cougar discovers harsh reality. Food is not available simply for the taking. It must be won. The duel is over. There's no anger here, no sense of defeat. The moment is past. The deer will face other predators. The cougar will find other prey. This is the way it must be to achieve a balance of life. And in nature, Each creature takes only what it needs to survive. Despite the struggle, to the coyotes, the skunk is not an enemy. It's food. The pursuit of food is the single most powerful drive dominating the behavior of every creature on Earth. To satisfy hunger, some may even resort to cannibalism. Hunger knows no morality for beast or man. Throughout most of man's history, we have lived as any other creature, subject to the same laws of nature. To survive, we must eat. To eat, we must hunt. The chase is relentless, exhausting for both hunter and hunted. At stake is life itself. For one to live, the other must die. Thus, man long lived, an integral part in the balance of nature. Like any other creature, taking only enough to meet his basic needs for survival. Priorities have changed. Once we shared the earth, now we plunder it. A fair share no longer seems to satisfy our basic needs. These are the tools of commerce, the primitive instruments of modern man, now a civilized predator. We hunt not for meat, but for profit, not for our legitimate needs, for food and hides, but for fertilizer and the whims of fashion. No longer are we as one with nature. We've set ourselves apart from it. By so doing, we may be destroying the delicate balance that sustains all life on Earth. Our rapaciousness is rationalized as a harvest. Thus we delude ourselves and call it earning a living. and thus we enforce our dominion over all the creatures of the earth. Bountiful and eternal, nature left alone constantly renews itself. No man is needed here, for as day is born of night, life miraculously emerges from the darkness of the womb. Toothless, hairless, deaf, and blind, an embryonic kangaroo begins life facing an ordeal. Incredibly fragile, it weighs less than an ounce. Marsupial instinct alone guides it to the safety of its mother's pouch. Here, for 190 days, it will remain, tenaciously clinging to the flesh that bore it. So marvelous, so ordinary, yet more than anything else, this is the common bond that links all of us to all of them. We share life. We share the earth. It is as much theirs as ours. Living only in the present, at one with nature's rhythms, their innocence arouses our envy, for time here has no meaning, and unlike us, they are not burdened with the knowledge that we are all bound to die. Yet death touches us all, and with or without understanding, it is mourned. In nature, death is but an instant. The life force, however, is inexorable, sustained by delicately balanced interrelationships between all living organisms. In accepting nature's bounty, a bear demands nothing more than its right to live, and with instinctual wisdom, it chooses not to dominate, but to share. In their freedom, animals give us cause for admiration. Yet while we accept their evolutionary superiority in specifics, we deny them an equal right to the earth we share. In dominating the earth, we relegate all other creatures to subservient roles, and conveniently forget that they have attributes we prefer to consider ours alone. It's more comforting to believe in our superiority if we remain convinced that man is unique, that no other creatures communicate, form family units, create communities, govern themselves. In them we call it instinct. In ourselves we call it intelligence. There are some exceptions. In our myths and legends, we freely grant human characteristics to the dolphin. Yet rarely have we considered the possibility of equality. The dolphin is at least as old as man, and some say, perhaps as intelligent. The dolphin is an air-breathing mammal, and like man has evolved a complex communication capability. In the act of childbirth, it further confirms a remarkable kinship. mother, the instant of birth is critical, for unless her newborn can reach the surface for its first breath of air, her baby will drown. In parallel evolution with us for 35 million years, the dolphin may yet prove our equal, for as a master of the sea, the dolphin still holds dominion over most of the Earth's surface. In apparent freedom, the golden eagle rules the sky in majesty, yet it is dependent for life on the bounty of the earth below. With its 6-foot wingspan, it soars over a hunting territory as large as 100 square miles to search out its daily needs. A female eagle weighs almost 12 pounds and requires nearly a pound of fresh meat every day. The golden eagle hatches only 2 eaglets a year. It will be 6 to 7 months before they will be able to hunt for themselves. Until then, they will be as dependent on their mother's skill as she is on the supply of game. Although their diet is primarily rabbit, rodent, snake, and other birds, they have been systematically persecuted for preying on sheep, a crime they rarely commit. In the golden eagle, there is an instinct for continuity. Although these eaglets will soon join their mother in the air, the nest and the territory will remain her possession. Her young must make their own way and seek out other lands, wherever that may be. Compulsion to territoriality is a drive the eagle shares with us, and we share with every other creature on Earth. This is not a battle of prey versus predator, but a contest between competitors. Both the bear and the badger are omnivorous, both feed on many of the same plants and animals. Survival may demand that one of them relinquish this territory. Combat determines which one. The bear weighs nearly 1,000 pounds. The badger not quite 20, yet the odds are even. By nature, the bear prefers to avoid conflict, if it can. The battle is bloodless, but decisive. The bear must now seek out a food supply elsewhere in unoccupied territory. The badger has won. Its needs are secure. For the moment, it's safe. For the cheetah, territory is not fixed but constantly changing, and always includes enough room to play. Invisible boundaries separate adjacent claims, and trespassing is forbidden. If the nomadic cheetah crosses a neighbor's defensive perimeter, a decision must be made. Fight or flee. The cheetah begins its hunt with calculated patience. Protectively, the warthog keeps its offspring close to its side. Formidable and alert, the warthog is confident of its ability to defend its young. The tiny, speedy Thompson's gazelle is the cheetah's favorite prey. First, a specific target is selected. Then, ignoring all others, the pursuit begins. Usually solitary in its habits, the adult cheetah will share its food with the immediate members of its family, until cubs and yearlings are able to hunt for themselves. The instant of violent death is past. For the gazelle and the cheetah, a natural balance is momentarily struck. And for all creatures of the wild, life depends on that balance. If it's disturbed, they die. Once the land, like a promise, reached out to us, vast and full of dreams. With love and courage, we claimed it. With pride, we made it ours. Now the promise is behind us. The dream is nevermore. Thus, the promise has been redeemed. In naive arrogance, we have invaded all of nature, a conqueror, oblivious to the consequence of excess. And in our growth, we ignore the fact that the land cannot be ours alone. These are prairie dogs, ground squirrels once so populous that American pioneers could ride for days without losing sight of them. Called dog towns, prairie dog communities sometimes covered as much as 50 square miles. Basically a herbivore, prairie dogs fatten themselves on grass growing near their burrows, and in the process become primary targets for the carnivores of the prairie. For the black-footed ferret, the prairie dog is an absolute necessity. Feeding almost exclusively on prairie dogs, the ferret also preempts their burrows as a home. Considered virtually extinct, the ferret is unaware of its plight. If left undisturbed, the few remaining may survive to mate and repopulate their species. Ironically, however, the fate of the ferret is totally dependent on the survival of the prairie dog. But even now, except in a few protected areas, the prairie dog faces doom. In response to private interests, governmental agencies are active in the control and management of the prairie dog. Implementing the policy is as simple as the spreading of poisoned grain. The land is ours. No longer will the prairie dog rob our cattle of grass. No more will our cattle be crippled by their burrows. The rancher simply represents our collective needs. The choice is clear. prairie dog or beefsteak. Together we write an epitaph. You can't eat prairie dogs. The shallow kelp beds off California's coast, one of the world's most valuable fur-bearing animals lives in seeming peace. The sea otter once had a $1,000 price tag on its pelt. Somehow it survived a siege that saw 50,000 of its ancestors annually converted into wearing apparel. Today, under protection, the California sea otter numbers slightly over 1,000. With the help of a flat rock, the sea otter ingeniously smashes open the shellfish that compose its primary diet. An adult will eat a fifth of its weight every day. And in California waters, its favorite food is the abalone. The taste for abalone is leading the sea otter into its second confrontation with man. These are abalone. We consider them a gourmet food. Since the 1920s, they have been regularly harvested by commercial divers and sports fishermen. Once abundant, their numbers have rapidly dwindled. The scarcity of abalone has had a direct economic effect in such small fishing communities as Morro Bay. Fishermen report that taking and processing of abalone once supported 100 families. Now it can support but 25. For the fishermen, then, the otter is simply a competitor. At stake is nothing less than economic survival. No animal in history has ever competed with us and won. Polar bears have two advantages over other threatened animals. They have nothing we need and live where we can't. For them, life is good. At home in a hostile climate, the polar bear for centuries has taken for granted its freedom in the Arctic, but no more. Regrettably, it seems that whenever man invades nature's frontier, he cannot resist asserting and rationalizing his superiority. even illegally, as in this dramatized incident. No other creature on Earth kills for less. A fur rug for a den, a head mounted over a bar. Grieve for them and for us. Great herds of animals like these once graced the endless prairies of North America, as they do today in the Serengeti plains of Africa. During the last century, however, 90% of Africa's animals have been destroyed. Only in such sanctuaries as the Serengeti Preserve do they survive. Yet the same force which reduced our buffalo to near extinction is at work here. The pressure is on. Just as our pioneers expanded westward, the swelling populations of Africa are on the move, and the wild animals have no place to go. The parallel is familiar and frightening, for preceding the pioneers are the pathfinders, the hunters who leave in their wake a parade of dead and wounded animals. An antelope with a severed leg, an elephant with its trunk nearly cut through, unable to feed itself, doomed to starvation. This is the way we blaze a path of civilization. Contained now in small, scattered remnants of land, many animals are almost entirely dependent on us for their survival. Near sprawling Los Angeles, zoologists have transformed a stretch of barren hills into a replica of the African veldt. Here, in a reversal of traditional roles, the animals roam free. The people are confined to cages. To see wild animals for the first time in a simulation of their natural environment, thousands of people gladly pay admission. The animals here, however, are far more than a profitable tourist attraction. For their keepers, gate receipts support a vital gene pool, a possible way of restocking their original habitat. To zoologist Bill York, formerly of Kenya, East Africa, his purpose is clear.
I believe that for the purposes of conservation, it is necessary to take animals from their natural environment and put them in a safer habitat. In other words, to take them from Africa and bring them to America where there is no possibility of them being wiped out.
Protection is but the first step in creating conditions favorable for procreation. In the last year, 35 lion cubs have been born here at Lion Country Safari. 7 of them have been returned to Africa. Isolated from the rest of the pride, a young lioness is giving birth to her first litter. 3 cubs have already been born. For these cubs, the chance of reaching maturity in the wild would be minimal. There, the mortality rate is close to 90%. Here, however, the odds are reversed. 9 out of 10 survive. The normal litter is 3 to 4 cubs. Delivery takes place over a period of hours. Yet the instant of birth itself is only a matter of seconds. Despite this apparent success, many professional conservationists like Bill York are convinced their efforts are probably hopeless.
My personal belief is that we've gone beyond the point of no return. We've just condemned the whole world to a slow descent into nothing, into disappearance. I don't believe that we can do anything about it now. I think if we stopped this minute, if we stopped as we are, if we stopped polluting the air and stopped destroying animals, stopped destroying habitat generally, I believe that it is still too late.
In spite of what the professionals believe, Mrs. Betty Dobson knows what she feels, and her concern is the survival of the desert tortoise.
If people are going to keep tortoises as pets, they should learn how to properly care for them. There's too many things that they do for them. They drill holes in their shell, they tie strings or rope around their leg, they paint their shells, and this is the type of people we try to gather up the tortoises from because they don't know how to properly care for them and return the tortoises to their natural habitat.
For Betty and her son Joe, the rescue of the tortoise involves a weekly drive of 150 miles to and from the Mojave Desert.
People have asked me how I can like a tortoise. Well, to me, it's just one of God's creatures. It's a very slow-moving, relaxing thing to have around.
To prevent the overpopulation of an area, Betty and Joe return tortoises only to sites pre-selected by professional naturalists. The territorial needs of the tortoise are incredibly modest, sometimes measured by the yard.
Tortoise really has only one natural enemy, and that is man. As new subdivisions, new housing tracts going farther and farther out, and the tortoise can't always move out faster than these tracks come in. Man is chasing it out of its home.
A prehistoric creature, the tortoise predates man by millions of years, yet it may not survive us. In the saga of our civilization, the descendants of wild mustangs hold an honored place. They have served us well and long, and have gained our respect, if not our love. The expert care and breeding of horses has been the occupation of Bingo Wessner for 9 years. It was a good life, steady if not spectacular. Then his horses started to die.
just before the horses died. They could pass any vet inspection in the country by any veterinarian that wanted to check them. And then you run them or exercise them or put any stress on the animal whatsoever, and they drop over dead.
In 16 months, 10-year-old Diane Wesner has seen 13 horses die. One of them was hers. And in her heart, there will never be another horse quite like Penny. This piece of land is 35 miles north of San Francisco. According to public health experts, the grass is contaminated with lead, and the air may contain certain pollutants that trigger poisonous combinations. Of course, an investigation is underway, but that's of little consolation to Diane Wesner.
I feel pretty sad because our horses are dying. It's making us sick, too. We're getting stomach aches and we're getting pains in our chest, in our sides, and everywhere. And I think if we don't get this problem solved pretty soon, that people will start dying, too. We've had 13 horses that's died because they ate the grass and breathed the air.
Dichlorodiphenyl trichloroethane is a colorless, odorless, water-insoluble crystalline insecticide, DDT. In the 40s, when it went into use, 60,000 pelicans thrived by fishing along the Texas Gulf Coast. Today, only 46 can be found. In the summer of 1970, the pelican's plight claimed the attention of Beth Payne. She's a teenage student in Corpus Christi, Texas, self-taught ornithologist concerned with the pelican. Beth feels she shares its fate. This year, on this tiny island, and nowhere else from the Mexican border to the Florida peninsula, pelicans have hatched some young. The new additions total exactly 9. For Beth, this is a lonely battle station. The enemy is a massive indifference to whether or not these few birds live or die. Beth observes that despite the best efforts of the adult birds, some of their offspring have not yet learned to fly, or, once airborne, how to return gracefully to the sea. To protect the pelicans, Beth faces incredible obstacles. Once the island itself was to be dredged away to enlarge a ship's channel, her reports help persuade engineers otherwise. Her pleas on behalf of the pelicans to restrict the output of a proposed new industrial plant to non-toxic materials may not be as successful. If she fails, the pelicans face almost certain disaster. And in Beth Payne's opinion, so do we all.
Some people just don't really consider animal life anything really worth worrying about. But still, we've got so many things in common with animals, you know. We live on the same earth, and we just can't overrun it. We've got to live together. You know, pelicans are just kind of signals or something. Because whatever's killing them, pesticides or DDT or whatever it is, it's going to get us sooner or later. If they're going to start dying, we're going to too. It may take longer, but there's no way. In the history books, they always talk about men going out and conquering nature, and it seems like they should be able to do something about coexisting instead. The more man increases, the more animals decrease. It doesn't seem like there's room for both of them. Nobody's making room for both of them. I mean, you can't just make it a whole planet of concrete and houses. You just can't do that.
Since the birth of Christ, 250 animal species have vanished from the face of the earth, 166 of them in the past 50 years. For the dead, we can only mourn. The fate of the living is still in our hands. The Japanese crested ibis, once so numerous it was a symbol of life throughout the Far East. There are 11 left in the world. You are seeing 8 of them. The American prairie chicken. 99% of these have been destroyed. The Barbary leopard. 100 remain. The whooping crane. It once filled the flyways from Mexico to Canada. There are 56 left in the wild. Panda, 20 in captivity, existence in wild unknown. Indian rhino, survives only in sanctuaries. Komodo dragon, 300 survive in one vulnerable community. Asiatic lion, 162 remain alive. The casualty list of life on Earth goes on endlessly. Its message is clear. Share or say goodbye.
When I was a babe, the sea and the sun were the mother's arms to which I'd run secure beneath the pure maternal sky. Time went on, we grew apart, and I forgot my mother's heart. A heart deprived of love can only cry. And I am going away. I heard her say, I'm going away. I heard her say, I'm going away. Won't someone say goodbye? When I was a child, I ruled the earth. I owned it all, its total worth. Each fish, each field, each flower, each butterfly. Time went on, I came to see if I own the earth, then the earth owns me. And each of us must live, or both of us will die. Each of us must live, or both will die. And I am going away. I heard her say, oh yes, I'm going away. I heard her say, I'm going away. Won't someone say goodbye? Alone in space we together float, a frightened crew in a fragile boat. And each of us must live, or both will die. Each of us must live, or both will die. And I am going away. I heard her say, oh yes, I'm going away. I heard her say, I'm going away. Won't someone say goodbye? I heard her say